They arrived with no return address. Polaroid photographs. One image would unravel two mysteries that haunted decades. Both involved vanished souls and a single photograph that refused to be ignored. Late summer, 1988. A quiet town in New Mexico. The sun burned a relentless trail across the sky as Tara Calico mounted her mother's pink bicycle for a simple afternoon ride. An ordinary bike trip, except she never returned. Following the initial frantic searches, the case grew cold, the silence thickening around Tara's disappearance, like dust on forgotten shelves. Nearly a year later, a grim twist jolted the investigation back to life. A Polaroid photo surfaced, found anonymously in a Florida parking lot, some 1,500 miles from where Tara disappeared. It showed a young woman who looked just like Tara, gagged and bound beside a boy, their faces obscured in fear. Clutched nearby was a book by Tara's favorite author. The image was raw, airy, and chilling. Detectives puzzled over the photo's authenticity for years. Was it a cruel hoax, or a cryptic message from a kidnapper? Experts noted a distinctive scar on the woman's wrist, matching Tara's. But the boy in the photo was another enigma entirely. Michael Henley, a 9-year-old who had gone missing the same year in the same region. Yet, Michael's body was found months later, far away, dashing hopes the photo was straightforward evidence. Fast forward to 2004, Indiana. Another shadow darkened the streets. The disappearance of an 8-year-old girl named April Tinsley. Like Tara, April vanished without a trace. But unlike the silence around Tara, April's case gained horrific notoriety through a series of anonymous letters mailed to local girls and police. Each letter, sealed in plastic bags, contained disturbing confessions paired with taunting warnings, sometimes accompanied by Polaroid images. These letters were a puzzle box of terror. They contained details known only to investigators, linking them unmistakably to April's murder. A Polaroid featuring the lower half of a nude male added a further horrifying layer to this twisted correspondence. Despite DNA matches confirming the sender's guilt, the killer remained at large, hidden behind layers of menace and anonymous threats. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Detective Jack Mercer sat with a pile of cold case files nicknamed the Polaroid Files. 2 cases, separated by distance and years, both marked by anonymous photographs that had haunted their investigations for decades. Both were breadcrumbs left in a dark forest, waiting to be followed. Each photo told a story no one was ready to hear, riddled with questions about the missing, the found, and the terror hidden between the frames. And somewhere, the one who sent them watched as the truth tangled in shadows. It was mid-June 1989, a little under a year after Tara Calico disappeared. A routine day in Port St. Joe, Florida, took a dark turn that would forever imprint a haunting image into the public psyche. A woman arrived at a convenience store parking lot and spotted a Polaroid photograph, awkwardly discarded in the parking space where a white windowless Toyota cargo van had once been parked. The image was grim. A young woman and a boy, both gagged with black duct tape, wrists seemingly bound behind their backs, eyes wide with quiet terror. The young woman bore a scar on her left leg. Those who knew Tara recognized it instantly, the same scar she had from a car accident before she vanished. Nearby lay a paperback copy of My Sweet Audrina, a favorite novel of Tara's. The boy's identity was less certain, but the family of Michael Henley, a 9-year-old who had disappeared in April 1988 during a hunting trip in the Zuni Mountains, just months before Tara, believed it to be him. Yet, a tragic twist surfaced. Michael's remains were later found about 75 miles from where Tara vanished, believed to have died from exposure after wandering off from camp. Law enforcement agencies scrambled. The Polaroid, unlike any known evidence, was analyzed rigorously. Scotland Yard, called in for its expertise, asserted the woman in the photo was indeed Tara Calico. However, the Los Alamos National Laboratory later disputed this conclusion. The FBI's analysis was inconclusive, deepening the mystery. The young woman's shoulders bore no redness from tight bindings, suggesting that perhaps the photo had been staged or taken after a short period. The state of the duct tape on their mouths further hinted the restraints were not long-lasting. Was this a cry for help or a calculated manipulation? For years, the Polaroid was a grim icon of the search, raising more questions than answers. The white van, seen leaving the scene where the photo surfaced, was never identified, despite roadblocks targeting a bearded man in his 30s driving it. Could this have been a human trafficking vehicle, a roving lair, or simply a red herring? Meanwhile, in Indiana, the 2003 disappearance of 8-year-old April Tinsley drew shock and sorrow nationwide. April's case shared unnerving echoes with Tara's, not through a photo, but through a sinister series of letters and one chilling Polaroid. Starting in 1984, an anonymous man began sending letters to local police and girls in the community. Some letters contained details only the killer would know. Others included crude drawings and taunts. At one point, a Polaroid surfaced showing the perpetrator's lower body, his naked legs and distinctive orange-stained fingernails. The letters continued for over a decade, igniting fear and frustration in the town. DNA from the suspect's saliva on the envelopes eventually matched a man named John Miller, who was convicted in 2006. Yet, April's murder remained unsolved until the forced confession sent shockwaves through the community. Miller admitted to killing April but refused to disclose the location of her body. The Polaroid and the letters, though horrifying, became the only evidence linking the man to the crime. The stark parallels between these two cases haunted Detective Jack Mercer. Both girls vanished in broad daylight. Both cases lacked clear eyewitnesses. Both were accompanied by anonymous, chilling photographs that turned otherwise invisible abductions into haunting visual puzzles. It was as if the sending of Polaroids was a tormenting signature, a call for attention, or a taunt by a killer who wanted to be known but not caught. Jack dove deeper, retracing the steps of both investigations, piecing together timelines. In Tara's case, the photo's film was identified as Type 660 Polaroid, only available from May 1989 onward, months after Tara's disappearance. This suggested the photo was taken after she vanished, a sobering fact. Could this mean she was alive months later, held captive, somewhere stark and shadowed? Or was this an elaborate fake, intended to misdirect? The boy in the photo further complicated the tale. Michael Henley's disappearance and subsequent death fueled suspicions of a serial perpetrator roaming the deserts near New Mexico. Yet, the distance where his remains were found, far from the photo's unknown van, seemed to belie any direct connection. Emotions ran high in the families. Tara's mother, Patty Dole, became an unwavering advocate, publicly confirming her belief that the woman in the photo was her daughter, facing skepticism and hope in equal measure. Michael's family clung to the photo as the last image of their son alive, a haunting symbol that kept the mystery alive, but also agonizingly out of reach. In April's case, the letter's taunts forced law enforcement into a tense cat-and-mouse dance with a killer who refused to reveal everything. The Polaroid was a glimpse behind the facade of anonymity, a half-seen signature, doused in fear. One reflective moment came when Mercer pondered the nature of these anonymous Polaroids. What compelled a kidnapper or murderer to send photographs? Was it guilt, a craving for control, or an eerie cry for recognition? These images, far from silent, screamed to those who would listen, both evidence and psychological warfare. Both cases eventually led to breakthroughs yet remained fragmented around the edges. In June 2023, after decades of cold trails, new evidence in Tara Calico's disappearance prompted authorities to announce substantial progress in identifying offenders. A team of prosecutors was reviewing the case, promising a potential reckoning decades in the making. The years blurred, but the images did not fade. For Detective Jack Mercer, the relentless puzzle of anonymous Polaroids and vanished children became a haunting fixation that defied closure. Then came the break no one saw coming. 2 decades after Tara Calico's disappearance, a discovery forced the tangled threads of these cases to converge. In early 2010, a man named Rodney Smith, a transient drifter with a history of violent crimes in the Southwest, caught investigators' attention. His DNA profile, previously unknown, matched traces found on envelopes containing the chilling letters sent during April Tinsley's case. Though imprisoned for unrelated offenses, Smith vehemently denied any involvement in the Polaroid correspondence or in the chilling disappearances. But the shock deepened months later when forensic archivists re-examined several Polaroids recovered from a storage locker rented by Smith. Among the cluttered images was a clear photo showing a young woman's shoe print, eerily similar to one Tara Calico wore in the days before her disappearance. Experts confirmed the shoe was a rare hiking boot, only sold locally near Tara's hometown. This revelation reignited investigations, linking Smith not only to April's torment, but potentially to Tara's disappearance. A pattern emerged. Smith had been known to hitchhike routes overlapping both New Mexico and Indiana, the territories of these cold cases. His fingerprints matched prints found in abandoned vehicles near where Michael Henley's remains were discovered. The plot thickened with the FBI's release of a partial confession by Smith, one that detailed a dark, fragmented narrative of abduction, captivity, and silence. His words were chilling. Sometimes a photograph is more than just a picture. It's a message from the shadows, a call for acknowledgement when voices have been stolen. In the courtroom, Smith's defense crumbled under the mounting evidence. He was convicted on multiple counts of kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder, bringing some semblance of justice to April's family. However, Tara Calico's fate remained uncertain. Despite exhaustive searches based on Smith's statements and new leads, no remains or definitive clues ever surfaced. The Polaroid photo that once tormented the nation remained an eternal question mark. Was Tara alive in that image, or had it been manipulated to torment those left behind? In the months following Smith's conviction, the families of Tara and April underwent a complex mixture of grief, relief, and the heavy weight of unresolved loss. The photograph had been both a bitter torment and a symbol of hope, holding tightly to truths half-spoken. Jack Mercer often reflects on the paradox of those photos, how an instant captured on film could carry decades of untold stories, frozen terror, and desperate cries for help. They were more than evidence. They were haunting monuments to human darkness and resilience. The revelations surrounding Rodney Smith's conviction cast a grim light, but offered a sliver of justice for the families haunted by decades of uncertainty and unanswered questions. Smith, whose criminal history was peppered with violence and abuse, ultimately faced the law, not only for the torment he inflicted through anonymous correspondence, but also for his role in April Tinsley's tragedy. The forensic evidence linking him to the Polaroid letters, and possibly to the shadowed fate of Tara Calico, closed many doors, but left others stubbornly ajar. For the families, the Polaroids became more than eerie snapshots. They were enduring symbols of grief, fear, and resilience. They underscored the devastating cost of unanswered disappearances that ripple through generations. These images forced society to confront the uncomfortable truth that even in advanced investigations, Some mysteries remain incomplete, and victims linger in obscurity. Questions linger. Why would someone send such photographs anonymously? Are these acts driven by a desire for control, acknowledgement, or twisted remorse? What does it mean when trauma is frozen on film, half visible but never fully clear? Detective Jack Mercer urges viewers to look beyond the chilling images and ask, what responsibility does a community bear when silence and fear allow such darkness to persist? Don't forget to subscribe to Real Mystery Reports for more strange, dark, and profoundly human stories. New true mysteries every day.